everyone. This is Ashely Bennis from Texas Sea Grant, and today we are continuing our hurricane preparedness education series with a very special guest, Dr. Meyer, Director of the Hazard Reduction and Recovery Center at Texas A&M. Hi, Michelle. Thank you for joining me today.
Hi, Ashely. Thanks for having me.
So as the Director of the Hazard Reduction and Recovery Center, can you give us a little brief overview of what the center is and some of the things you focus on there?
Yeah, so we're about 30 years old, started in 1989, and we're most closely aligned with the Department of Landscape Architecture and Urban Planning and the College of Architecture at A&M. And we focus on research, education, and community engagement, working with local communities in ways that can hopefully help them become more resilient to disasters.
Perfect. Well, we're very excited to have you today. I'm very excited to have you today. As part of our hurricane series, Texas Sea Grant Extension agents have been putting an extra emphasis on preparedness in the front end. And part of this is highlighting different tools that we know of. So it's my understanding at the Hazard Reduction and Recovery Center, you guys have a suite of tools that you've been developing over the years to help communities make decisions. What is the tool we'll be talking about today?
Yeah, so today we're talking about our Coastal Atlas or online mapping program, where we put a lot of the data from various research projects. This map actually started many, many years ago with funding from the state of Texas, but with each project we add more data to the map and kind of help build it out.
Well, excellent. Well, I know as a coastal planner, I have tested this out a little bit, and I'd be lying if I didn't say that it was a little confusing and overwhelming, like as soon as I opened the page.
Yeah, completely agree, and don't feel bad. I get confused too, so I'm happy to be going through this today with you a little bit so we can show a few examples.
Excellent. Great. So you're going to start off by showing us how to get there. Let's think about a scenario. So I'm an individual that wants to learn more about my area and being prepared. When I open it up, and I can tell I'm looking at the Texas coast, but where do I go from now?
All right. So if we come to the Hazard Reduction and Recovery Center homepage, we can go here under Research, and there's a section called Atlas. And so this tells you a little bit more about the development of the project and the project goals. So today we're going to look at the Coastal Bend Atlas, which was recently updated in 2019 to really help the local emergency managers redo their evacuation zones. So I click on it, give my Wi-Fi a second to load here. And yeah, so we see our 8 counties of the Coastal Bend area, and what comes up first on the homepage is those evacuation zones that they built based on the data working with us. So each county set their own zones based on information that we provided, and you can see them all here. And evacuation zones are really important to know. If you live in those areas, that tells you, the emergency manager will say, I'm calling for evacuation zone A. And if you know your zone, you know that means, okay, I need to get out, and I need to get out by this time.
Excellent. Well, that makes sense. Can I only use this tool to look at a broad overview of the county I live in or the evacuation zone I live in, or can I get it down to a more narrow level, say like a specific address?
You can do both. So community leaders can look at, you know, kind of the jurisdiction level, but also we can put in certain addresses and kind of look at the risk around that area or that point. Do you have an address you want to play with today?
Yes. I'm going to go with my favorite place in the text in Corpus Christi, and that's the Texas State Aquarium.
All right, awesome. So we have this search bar up here at the top. And we can type in Texas State Aquarium, and then it pulls up for us and gives us the address. And when we click on it, it's going to zoom in real close for us. I'm going to close out that so we can kind of see where we're at. And so this shows us, leaves a little black dot here that'll stay there this whole time while you're mapping, so you can kind of understand all the different risks around you. And we can click on this data layer here, so we know that the aquarium is in evacuation zone A2 of Nueces County, and it gives you a little bit more information about everything going on in that evacuation zone.
Wow, that's even more, I didn't even realize, just click on it. That's great that it gives you so much information. But I'm curious, what about maybe roads for evacuation and the threat of flooding for those roads? Is can it tell me some information about that?
Yes. So your best friend on the atlas, and my best friend when playing with the atlas, is your data layers list. So up here in the right hand corner, we have these 3 squares that are stacked on top of each other. Let's click that, and it's going to pull this drop-down menu that shows all the different data that's in the atlas that you can look at. So I'm going to turn off evacuation zones, and I'm going to turn on roadways. And I do the little drop-down arrow here, and I'm going to turn off the text.roadways, assuming that you know the roads in your area, and turn on the evacuation zones. So these are what emergency managers set to try to help people choose these roads. Those are the ones they want you to take to get out of town. So yellow means evacuation route, but we also have different colors on here that shows you when these roads might flood from storm surge. So I can even go down here to my storm surge models and turn that on to kind of look at, yeah, these bright red area, these pink areas, they might flood when we get a storm surge. So that's why you have to evacuate pretty early. So a red on your evacuation route, it's probably going to take on some water even during a tropical storm or a hurricane 1 through 3, which is a relatively weak storm that's coming through. It's going to have that storm surge, so you want to evacuate in time so you don't get stuck.
Yeah. Wow. That actually just happened here with Hurricane Hana. It came through as a Category 1, but it came with 4 to 5 feet of storm surge, and it brought with it some trash and some inundation levels on the first floor of the aquarium, I know. So, God forbid, I don't get out in time. I waited too long, and now the roads are flooded. And my house is in a low-lying area, so I don't feel safe there. If I'm trying to find a safe place to stay, either locally or close, is there something on the tool that can show me where to go?
Yeah, so what we want to do then is we want to do the built environment. So if we click the built environment button, we can click our drop down and see what other variables are there. So we notice hotels are checked already for us. So all these green dots that just popped up are different hotels in the area. So you could say pick a hotel also, and you can click on it. It'll tell you the hotel name, the address, and the capacity, as well as its evacuation zone. So you can make sure that it's not under an order for evacuation. Hotels are really interesting, especially this year for evacuation. With COVID-19, mass care shelters might show a potential to spread the pandemic. So many local emergency managers have been working with their hotels and hotel associations to try to have hotels open up more for people to evacuate. Then households can stay together in one room and hopefully reduce the risk of the pandemic spreading as it would in, say, a gymnasium or kind of traditional mass care shelter.
Yeah, it's easy to forget that these are different times and we can't quite evacuate or shelter like we did before. So I'm really glad you brought that up. Transitioning out of the preparedness side into after the disaster, thinking about community recovery. Is there information on the Atlas that can help community leaders make decisions about where to focus resources and efforts?
Yeah, so one of the big things about recovery is money. And a lot of funding for recovery for communities to address kind of large scale recovery needs comes from actually the Department of Housing and Urban Development, HUD. These are CDBG, DR, Community Development Block Grant Disaster Recovery grants that communities can get. Now, one key to these grants to do, say, infrastructure repair, affordable housing, they can do even buyouts of houses maybe that have been flooded numerous times to help those folks go find a new place to live, is that they have to benefit a certain proportion of low to moderate income, according to HUD's guidelines. So we heard this from our communities. They said they were having a really hard time showing that their projects and their plans met those standards of supporting low to moderate income people. So we added a data layer to the map. So we put this in, and it maps out the percentage of the population in different neighborhoods that qualify as low to moderate income according to HUD standards. So we see here the light colored is much lower, fewer low to moderate income households in those neighborhoods, and the dark colors have many more of those populations in their neighborhoods. And for recovery in general, even if you're not applying for a HUD grant, these areas are areas that we expect might take longer to recover because recovery is expensive. And so individuals who are living in poverty or low income are going to have more trouble kind of recovering from a disaster.
That's excellent information to have for a community. I mean, finding funding is so confusing and time consuming, and so many people don't have the resources to put to it. So this Atlas tool really provides a lot of interesting data that communities can use.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that as researchers, we do data well. And when we have projects that bring in data that we can share, we want to try to, have it out there so that people can use it. And so the Atlas is one place where we put a lot of the data that we've gathered so that communities can keep using it for their own needs.
That's so great. I am so glad that you were able to join us today, Michelle. Thank you for being here. That was really interesting. You provided a lot of information, and I'm sure it's only a fraction of what the information is that we can find on the Atlas tool. One last question for you before I let you go. As a decision maker, if I were considering this tool to help in planning for preparedness, what are some direct, tangible benefits that I can expect to get from using this tool as opposed to using another tool?
Yeah, so we worked really hard to get the data right, to get it specific and get it to be what people really need for their planning processes. So this way, like, communities don't have to spend their time and energy and guesswork coming up with what is going on in their community. They can use strong data to make the best plans possible and then really focus on going from that data to deciding their preparedness goals, recovery goals, and their resilience goals.
Excellent. Well, again, thank you so much for joining us. If you want to learn more about the Coastal Atlas tool or the programs that the Hazard Reduction and Recovery Center do, please visit the link on the screen that you see, and that will take you through all of that. If you want to learn more about other hurricane preparedness efforts that Texas Sea Grant is getting involved in and see some of our other videos, please visit our website. You'll see the link below. And Michelle, thank you so much. It's great to talk to you. I look forward to talking to you again.
Great. Thank you so much, Ashely.